Hi everyone, Kieran Sapien here from Filmstorm Studios, and we're back with episode 2 of having a look around Unreal. And as you can see from where we left off, we've got this guy, and we've actually managed to set up a level blueprint where we can trigger the light with a 1 second delay on and off. But as I was saying, it's probably better to have a look at how we can actually incorporate this into what's called a class blueprint. So there's a big difference between a level blueprint, because I mean, you can only have this in one map. So say if your guy is running from like room to room and that your game's loading all of these different levels, even you have these simple little things, these things would have to keep, you have to keep making them per level. Whereas if we jump back out of here, whereas we can actually create this inside a class blueprint, which means that it's pretty much as simple as dragging a object into here, and it's just in the world already, and you don't have to worry about setting anything up. And that's how you can make a lot of custom things for your game. So how do we go about, like, let's say we want to transfer this guy from this, having this level blueprint. So we have this level blueprint with pretty much this stuff. How can we create a class blueprint? So let's just go back to our top folder. So remember, you can click this to open this up if you can't see it. Let's go and right mouse click and say new folder, and let's call this blueprints. So this is all our custom blueprints that we're making. So let's right mouse click in here and let's create a new blueprint class. Now there's a lot of different advanced ones you can create. You can create little functions, interfaces, macro libraries, enumeration, and structures. But we'll have a look at that in future tutorials. We'll make our way through as many of these as we can. But for now, let's just do a standard blueprint class. And we want to select an actor because it gives you really nice little explanations of each thing here. So basically, an actor is an object that can be placed or spawned in the world. So a light. And you've got a pawn, which can be possessed and receive input from a controller. And so say that you could like quickly control something like a little remote controlled drone or something, kind of like in Watch Dogs. You've got the character. A character is a type of pawn that includes the ability to walk around. So some of these have like pre-set up like kind of conditions inside them. So for now, we just want to have an actor because we're creating that light. And a good naming convention in Unreal is to, if you're doing blueprints, kind of do like narrow the word down. So you have a BP and then put an underscore and then kind of say what it's for. So you have BP light. And then when you have like anims, you put like A underscore, or you could put anim underscore, probably A underscore. So that way you don't have to worry about that. And then blend space, you put BS and then AM. That way, when you're quickly squizzing through here, you can then just come into your search blueprints and then put, I want to search for BP, and there you go, it's come up. So that's like a quick way. So you can make your own database, so you can quickly go through that instead of naming all these random things. And you like light, or did I call it big light or blue light? So that way you can have like a really nice standard naming convention. So let's double click on here. Oops. And as you can see, it doesn't look like much at the moment, but it does look similar to what we had in the level editor. So if I jump out of here, oops, and we open up the level blueprint, it was this one. So this is what the level blueprint looks like, and then this is what a class blueprint looks like. So basically, a class can also include objects inside that, but level editor is more just controlling everything in that level that you've placed. So this is a good way to create standardized assets that you can use later in your game. So as you can see, it starts off with just a ball. So if we imported the standard content, let me just have a little quick squiz. And we have props. All right, so we've got a lamp. So let's we can do this lamp. We can do maybe the ceiling lamp. We can do the ceiling lamp. That should be pretty cool. We can actually pop a. Let's grab another cube. Cubo. Oh, I think that. Sorry, I'm used to the Unity. So we got a. Or is it? What is it actually called? Let's come into basic. Oh, it is a cube. Don't know why it didn't come up. All right, so here we are. Let's drag this guy out. Let's drag him out. Fly him. And let's just kind of make this as like a little offshoot from this wall. Another thing, if you hold Alt, I'm not used to it, you can actually duplicate it quickly just by holding Alt and dragging. So there we are. Cool, so let's drag this up, and then this is where we're going to kind of place our ceiling lamp. All right, so let's jump back over into our light blueprint. And what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna just drag the ceiling lamp into here. And let me just connect these two so we don't have all these windows everywhere. So now we have this ceiling lamp and this weird ball, and it doesn't really make sense as it is at the moment. But we can actually remake this the base of the scene by just grabbing it, so holding it, and dragging it onto this. And that actually then makes that the scene root. Okay, but this doesn't actually do much at the moment because we need to create a light. So we used a point light before, so why don't we try out a spotlight? So we can go to Add Component and add a spotlight. So this is how we can quickly build out these assets to do all these custom things for us. So say if you have a gun, you can put like you can actually, you'd probably do that in the skeleton of the gun, you can put a socket on the end, so then a muzzle flash will spawn. But you can have like a building, and then you can have a door, and then each door has like a trigger, so that way you can actually trigger that inside the blueprint. So let's come down and let's drag this same way as the Unity editor. You can WER, so W move, E rotate, R scale. So let's come to E and rotate, and we've got that snapping on, as I said before. We've got this up here. So as you can see, that makes it nice and simple. And as you can see, we've brought that in. But let's just quickly click compile, and let's come back to our map, and let's actually go back to our blueprints folder that we created, and you can see that we have this cool little blueprint light. It gives you the thumbnail of what we're making, and just like any other object, we can actually drag this into our scene now, and we can position this, and as you can see, we've already got the light going on. Let's bring this in. Let's press F. And let's just position this. And as you can see, the snapping is actually affecting our ability to place it correctly. So let's come and turn that off. And now we can place it nice and flush. There we are. Okay, so now we have that cool little lamp. And now we can actually kind of do like some sort of live editing. So we can see how strong we want the light beam to be. So let's come into here. Let's drag this out a bit. All right, and make sure you have the spotlight clicked, and in the details, this is kind of back in the Unity inspector, so that way we can inspect and change the variables. We can do exactly what we did for that other point light, so we can increase the intensity. Let's maybe change the light color. Let's make this like a brown. We can actually make it wider, so let's make it a bit wider because it seems like that would be the case. And we can make it go further. Oh, too far. And there we go. So that looks pretty cool. Alrighty, so now how can we do the same thing and set up that blueprint to trigger the character when he walks in? So let's have a look at how we're going to handle it. I'm going to snap this back. So first things first is we actually need to create a box collision inside this component. So let's come into Add Component. Let's type in box, and you have collision, and then we have this tiny little box. So let's just call this the volume of the trigger box, and let's come in and just make this a bit bigger. That should be good. Let's check that out. See, that looks pretty good. So if we're gonna, let's maybe make it a little bit wider, just for, I think it's that way. There we go, so that looks cool. So if we walk in there, we're gonna trigger that light. So let's do the code for this now. So let's come into the event graph. And we don't need any of these right now because we're not doing begin play. We're going to actually use a custom event from that trigger box, and we don't need a tick for every frame. Every tick is kind of like the void update in the C#. So this is going to run every tick in the game. So let's click on this box, and same as what I was saying with the level editor, you actually have to click these ones for it to appear. If you try and click inside these guys, it's not going to work the way you expect. So let's click on trigger box, and we want to say add event, and then you can see we've actually got all these cool little things. We've got the same options and even some more. We've got complete sleep, wake, and hit. So let's go begin overlap, and again we have to click it again, and then let's do a collision and overlap. There you go. And now we want to click the spotlight. Let's go call function on spotlight, components, actually rendering, is it rendering? Yeah. And toggle visibility. And you notice comparing this towards the, the level blueprint, we don't need to do this separate component, because now it can actually directly access that from our component itself, because technically it is a component. So it's just pulling that from its self. So what we can do is we can do the same thing. Let's drag these guys in here. Let's compile that, and let's jump back into here. Oh, actually we want to go, sorry, we have to go to here, and let's turn off that visibility. So that way it will turn on and off correctly. So let's click play. We'll walk under it. And then we can see that the light's turned on. So that's pretty cool. All right, so again, if you need to do that delay thing, so that way we can have it completely replicated the same way, let's go delay and plug this one in there as well and make that 1. Again, this is that way we can go play and then run over 1 second, and it's on. And now this is where the true power of this. So imagine if you had to come in here and then click, say we wanted to make another one of these guys, you'd have to come and create the box, create the light, come into here, then create all of these things for the different trigger volumes that you just set up. So imagine how hard and like long that would take you. So now if you need to create another light, it's just as simple as like maybe just grabbing this, and let's grab, what do we call it, BP light, and then we can hold Alt. There we go. Let's drag one over here. Click play, and now we have 2. And look how simple that was. Now the code will directly come over from the blueprint, and that will work perfectly. It'll turn off, come over here, and you'll notice that it doesn't actually trigger that one. It's independent of each other. And there you go. So we've just had a quick look at the class blueprints over the the level blueprint. So now let's have a look at how we can change this idle and bring in our own animation and do like a quick retarget of that. And it's really simple. Okay, so let's go and import our actual animations. So let's go to our animations folder, and let's grab our animation. And here we go. So basically what we want to do is whenever you create an animation for Unreal, you want to make sure that it has some sort of mesh. It could just be some boxes, but that way Unreal actually knows what the position is of those the different meshes, and that's how it can actually create the skeleton. And as you can see, when we hover over this none, it's going to say skeleton to use for imported asset. When importing a mesh, leaving this to none will create a new skeleton. And when importing an animation, this must be specified to import the asset. So having this as none is like an essential requirement for importing the skeleton. Unless you've created the model, it's like a big but if you're creating your own skeleton and you've made all the animations on that, you can actually, it'll probably come up and have it already there that Unreal recognizes it. But for us, since we're going to retarget it, you can want this to be none. And if you expand this, you want to check that all your settings are the same as mine, but I haven't changed it from default just in case yours has gotten out of whack for some reason. Animation, this is a big one. You want to make sure this is checked, so make sure it's ticked, and make sure exported time is the one. So we have these other ones. Exported time is basically what you've animated inside your 3D program. And make sure all of these are the same. And Okay, and transform, that should be all fine. And this should be fine. Material, make sure these are actually unchecked, because otherwise it imports a heap of random stuff if you have like little bits and pieces over your model, different materials. And once that's all good, let's press import, and that's going to quickly pull in all those keys that we hand animated or motion captured. And let's get rid of that. It's just some bone warnings. And here we go. Let's double click on this one that says anim, and this is actually the animation. So same thing. This is the animation viewer. You can hold Alt and left mouse click, and you can go around, kind of like in Maya. Middle mouse click to move around, and middle mouse button to zoom in and out. And then you've got the little timeline down here. You can scrub between it. You've got the skeleton view on the left, and these are going to be where all your animations appear for your skeleton on down here. Also, you've got your different tabs here. You've got physics. This is really cool. It actually comes all pre-set up with your ragdoll. Look at that. If only a certain other program would do this automatically. Yes, anyway, so that's the physics section. So you can actually come into here later. Say you're working on a gun game and you want headshots to be like 200% extra damage. You can come in, say, okay, we want to grab this component and we want to times that hit area, so this headshot, by like 200, and then you can do extra damage. So that you already have all these little hit points already all set up, and all the bones all simulating and physically. That's some sort of yoga pose right there. Let's go back into the mesh. This is the blood and bone of the character. So this, actually blood and skin. We've got the bones of the skeleton here. So this is basically where you'll make all your, assign all the textures, your LODs, your clothing, the physics all set up, lighting if you need anything extra. And you can also do your other custom little things on the side. And your skeleton. So this is where we're going to have a little look around right now. So you've got the retarget manager. This is already open for me, but because I was in it before. This is how it would come up originally for you. So you've got the skeleton tree on this side, and what we're going to do is retarget manager up here. And you can see this is select rig is none. So we want to select a humanoid rig. Now that sounds familiar from Unity, doesn't it? And luckily, this model has actually been renamed exactly the same way that we need our structure for Unreal, which is really handy. Normally, you can just come and say auto mapping and it will come through, and we'll fix that all up for you, which is really nice. It's nice of Unreal. Sometimes you'll have to actually go through, and there's only a few bones, just the normal bones, kind of like making a ragdoll in Unity. You just need to come in and say, okay, this is the root, this is the pelvis, and then just make your way down. So you kind of pick the same bones. Okay, so let's say save. That one's done. So let's minimize this. Let's go find our mannequin. And this is our skeleton. So you see there's each component that we just looked at. We've got the physics, the mesh, and the skeleton. So let's come to the skeleton. Okay, and now we want to do the same thing. So again, retarget manager, bring this up. Select rig, humanoid. And there we go, auto mapping, done. Save, minimize. Okay, so let's go and retarget that animation. So animation here, right mouse click on it, you can tell it's the animation because it's also green. Let me just scale that up for you. So you got the green, which is animation. You got this one, which is the mesh. This color is physics, and this color is skeleton. So once you get the hang of what all the different colors mean, that means when you're quickly looking over here, like, oh, okay, that's the mesh, come over here. All right, so let's right mouse click on this animation. You want to come up to retarget anim assets, duplicate anim assets, and retarget. Boom. Now, really exciting. This is normally comes up and there's nothing in here, and you're like, oh, why can't I just want to press retarget, like, why can't I do anything? Or why isn't there a target? I should see my mannequin. And that's just because we had to go in and set up those bones to match each other. So that way Unreal's like, oh, okay, yeah, there's a skeleton that matches that bone. We have all the mappings all set up for it. So we can remap it for you. Now, this is a big thing that you want to make sure you uncheck. You want to uncheck convert spaces to new skeleton, because sometimes it's a little bit weird. Sometimes it comes out weird. We'll do one with the other one. So let's just uncheck that and let's say retarget. And here we go. We've got our animation retargeted to the dude. And there we are. So that's pretty exciting, isn't it? All right, so now let me just show you what would happen if we went back. Oh, let me just scale this down. It's a little bit too big. Let's go to our animations. Let's go to anim and let's try doing it, but with the with convert spaces to new skeleton. Sometimes, so just in case this happens to you, this is what's going to happen if you do this. You're like, oh, where's my guy? Oh, that's his little hips trying to move up in there. So the spacing of the character is tried to be translated into the bones itself, and that sometimes gives really weird results. Who knows what actually happens, but that is why you uncheck that. If it's not working for you, just go and try and uncheck it, and that will fix it. So let's just delete that. Now let's try and replace this default pose with this new 2.0 pose that we just created from our retargeting. Let's go Control-Shift-S. Remember to save frequently. Sometimes it has a little think. There you go. And if you're really particular and you don't like seeing all this lighting that needs to be rebuilt, you can actually come up to build lighting only. So you click that little arrow and it's going to say starting up swarm connection. And it's going to quickly go through and export the lighting and build it, which is like amazing compared to Unity's lighting, which sits there for forever saying, I'm building, I'm getting there, which is really nice. And there you go, look at that. It looks really cool. And look how fast and that built all that lighting so quickly. Okay, so let's go and let's fix up and replace this idle animation. So we want to go to, where does it put it? I think it's in third person? No. Mannequin animations, there we are. Okay, so here you can see these are the animations that come in the pack, the default starter pack. And as I was saying, this is how you can browse through these different animations. So it's really cool to be able to move through it also nicely. And now you can see we have this extra one here. All right, so what we want to do is let's close this one. We want to come over and see this one. Now this is actually different from these, you can tell by the color. And this is an actual blueprint, which I believe. So this is what actually drives all of these animations. So you can see this is kind of like mechanim for Unity. So these are all driven by Boolean. So are we in the air? Then if we're not, then we should be jump starting. We should be looping and then coming down. And inside here, we've got the different speeds. Different speeds would show the running. So you can actually preview this by dragging this. So that's that. So how do we actually change this? So we can actually go into this third person idle run 2D, and then this is where we create our blend spaces. And basically this is a 2D one. This is basically like the mechanim one from Unity. Just you have to hold shift and you can actually move the mouse backwards and forwards, and you can actually simulate what the stick would be doing. So basically this is 0 and then this is 1. Well, this is actually technically 380 if you look at that speed pop up. And this is walking. So the one we're interested in is this very first one. This is the idle. And if we double click on this one, we've actually got this one. So you can see that we've got our new little animation. And I just wanted to touch on this one thing. If we jump back to our, where is it? This guy. And yes, so we're in the right spot. If you jump back to here, you can actually come over to options in the skeleton tree and say show retargeting options. This just might be something that might happen to you. If you right mouse click and say recursively set translation retargeting animation, this is actually how it comes in from your model. And this is probably the most closest representation that the model can get to what it was when it was imported. But it might not look very good, does it? So what we need to do is actually right mouse click on the root and say retargeting skeleton. So this is actually going to take the Unreal's mannequin or whatever skeleton it is and actually say, okay, what should I look like compared to that animation? And this is actually going to give you a much nicer result. See, if we get up nice and close to here, and if we said that we actually wanted it to be the animation, look at all these really hard edges. It's not really respecting the model. It's kind of trying to match more about what the actual thing is. And so we just want to make sure that is the skeleton. So let's just Control S that, jump back to here, double click on the blend space, and then come back to here. And as you can see, we're back here. And if we hold Shift, now it all looks really nice. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's come out of there and let's press play. And now we have our new animation. I'm pretty sure we did set it, didn't we? Let me just check. No, we haven't set it yet. So let's quickly set that. There we are. Let's come back. Ah, there we are. That looks better. So I was like, that looks like our other one. So there you go. So that's our new animation in there. And as you can see, it all works really nicely. Probably couldn't even tell. It looks like a default mech anim one. I mean, what do you call it? Unreal animation. Mannequin animation, there you go. So there you go, it all works really nicely. It's all looking really good. We've got some weird baking issue going on there, but I'm gonna look into that. And yeah, so that's it's looking great. So in the next tutorial, what we're gonna have a look at is actually replacing this weird duck running animation that always comes in Unreal. I'm gonna put a cool running animation in. And then we'll start to have a play around with the camera as well and position it in a more likable kind of third-person way. So thank you everyone for checking all this out, and catch me in the next episode, which will be number 3 if you're looking for it. And I'll see you guys then.